Happening now on Grid Tonight. Mattia Binotto is back in Formula One to lead the Audi F1 Project. Is the ex-Ferrari team principal the right choice? The IMSA GTD Pro Championship leader is parting ways with his team. Why is Seb Priaulx turning down an opportunity to win a championship? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Cubby Lambert, and with me are Joshua Birch. Welcome back, and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. We encourage everyone to comment in the chat, ask questions, and support us through Super Chat. Now, Josh, take away with our top story this evening.
Thank you, Kirby. Thank you, Matt. I'm glad to be back. And I'm not a mime artist. I'm bandaged up. I've had quite a nasty skin problem as well. So I'm in a healing phase at the moment. So I'm not a mime artist, I promise you. And I am back. So welcome back. I can't make doves fly or anything like that. So don't ask me to do any special tricks. But it's nice to be back. I've missed you over the past 2 weeks, guys. I really, really have. Nice to get away and learn things as well from a racing team, but that's in my hots later on we'll get into. So, in a surprising shake-up, former Ferrari team principal Mattia Binotto will return to Formula One to lead the Audi F1 project. Now, originally, Audi brought a stake into Sauber, but earlier this year, Audi took full ownership of Sauber, showing how committed they are to F1. Now, 2025 will be the last year under Sauber before running under the Audi name, beginning in 2026. Binotto will start working at the team on August 1st as the Chief Operating Officer and the Chief Technical Officer in Switzerland. Now, with Binotto coming on board in a leadership restructure, it means Andreas Seidel, who joined Audi F1 early last year as CEO, and Audi executive Oliver Hoffmann will depart the project as well. The photo courtesy there of Formula One. Now, were you more caught off guard by Audi making such a big change at the top in general, or the fact that it's Mattia Binotto who's been chosen to lead this resurgence?
Yeah, I didn't really think Mattia Binotto was on their radar. I thought Audi had, all their ducks in a row and they had all the people they wanted to lead this project, and it was just going to be that. But when we got this bombshell news that Mattia Binotto was coming back to F1 to lead this project, I think it surprised a lot of us. And we all know the reputation that Mattia Binotto brings when it comes to this Audi F1 project. And we all remember his time from Ferrari. Even all of us here on Grid Network, we talked about all his shortcomings at Ferrari and criticized what happened under his leadership there until, they decided to move on from Binotto. But I do think that this is a great opportunity for Mattia Binotto, whose reputation took a huge hit at Ferrari. This is an opportunity for him to go out there and help restore his reputation. And also, obviously, when being at Audi compared to Ferrari, being the leader of Audi, you're going to have a lot less pressure on you compared to Ferrari. But I do think that Binotto will have a great opportunity here to see what he can do with this startup project and try to get this project in the right direction and in a better place. And I know right now the way Sauber is running, the morale seems to be low. They're not having a good season at all in Formula One, and it's going to be very hard to try to attract people to this project. But with Binotto there, maybe he can try to get some of his former Ferrari colleagues to join this project and try to build it the way he sees fit, because obviously Audi's had a lot of problems behind the scenes trying to get this project going.
Evening, guys. Hope you can hear me okay, because I think I've got a little bit of a connection issue at my end, but hopefully you can hear me coming across loud and clear. Good, excellent. Yes, this was a bit of a shocker, wasn't it, this morning when this one broke? Didn't see this coming at all. It's not like Binotto's just suddenly left the team and Audi have swooped to get him before nobody else in a Adrian Newey style coup. Not that we know where Adrian's going, of course, yet. That's probably still going to come out in the wash, but I honestly thought when Seidel left McLaren to go there, he was going to be the linchpin. He was going to be the Dr. Ulrich, to use an Audi in past, metaphor sort of thing, of being the linchpin at that team and building everything around him and such like. And he's not even going to see their first race as the Audi team, and for a year and a bit by the sound of things. So, I'm not really sure. He must have done a very good job in the interview. That is what I will say. But yeah, really was surprise move to see Binotto back in the paddock. Of course, we have seen him at a few F1 races in the, as a sort of not a fan, but in the paddock. doing the rounds. So discussions must have been had, and we're not quite into the summer break, and this is the first big news of the summer break.
Absolutely. There's a big sort of meme going around at the moment with Gunther Steiner sort of putting his arms around the back of Mattia Binotto and going, "We're going back to Netflix, Binotto. We're going back to Netflix." So it could be quite funny. Adam says, "Welcome back, Josh. Loves the background." So do I. It's nice to be back in Spa, isn't it, as well? One of my favourite
Hopefully it's
races
not that
of the
gloomy
year.
at the weekend.
I know. I typed in sunny Spa Rouge, and this is the best it came up with as well. So yeah, although a wet race at Spa would be quite entertaining. Then again, we don't really need that at the moment. Where F1's exploding on its own. More of that in hots later on as well because of all the things in Hungary. But just carry on with the story as well, because according to Jonathan Noble from motorsport.com, it was a power struggle between Seidel and Hoffman that played a big role in this leadership restructure at the team. Plus, the lack of results we've seen from the current Sauber F1 team has left morale in a bad spot. Remember, Zhou Guanyu has only made it out of Q1 twice this year, once in sprint qualifying for the Chinese Grand Prix and the second time at the British Grand Prix. He's always also, in the other races, started at the back of the grid on the last row. So he really does need some improvement. Of course, Bottas is now 21st in a 20-driver championship and no points at all for Sauber and no points, of course, that also means for Zhou and for Bottas. Now, Noble's added that Audi, who's been long rumoured to be targeting Carlos Sainz, wasn't able to sign him to a contract by now, as the Spaniard has chosen to evaluate his options at Williams and at Alpine. Now, there was also reports of trouble attracting quality staff who were also a bit hesitant to join this project as well. Now, motorsport.com sources indicated that Seidel and Hoffman didn't see eye to eye on multiple issues, which led to some tension within the team, including finger pointing at who should take the blame for Audi's lack of progress. Now, in the end, instead of choosing one over the other, Audi felt it was best to get a fresh start and let both men go in favour of bringing in the experienced Binotto to get the project heading in the right direction. Clearly, they weren't looking at Ferrari all those years ago as well. The link to all this is in the video description as well. But what are your thoughts on this alleged power struggle at Audi? And could Binotto be used to convince Sainz to join the team after all? And I'll add to that as well, we've barely seen Andreas Seidel at Formula One races over the past 18 months. He's very much been behind the scenes. It's always been Oliver Hoffman who we've seen in the fronter. So what's your take on all this going on?
Well, on the Sainz point, and I've been adamant about this Carlos Sainz going to this team for a while, and I've said it on this show numerous times, especially with Andreas Seidel being there. I can't. Well, Sainz has been stalling, and I can't see that now happening. Now that Seidel, his former boss at McLaren, of course, has been moved to one side. There was some rumblings in the spring. I'm not sure we talked about it on the show. We may have done. There was some rumblings in the spring that the Audi might pull the plug on this before it goes any further. There was a change of board that it got signed off, and I think they supposed to put them on the back foot a little bit. But I don't really understand, unless there's been a big falling out that we don't know about behind the scenes, as you say, Josh, between these two and others, for them bringing Binotto in to, start fresh. We've still got plenty of time before we see an Audi Formula One guy hit the track. Of course, as you mentioned, it's not going to be for another 18 months or so. So in that sense, they have got plenty of time, but also time's ticking on this, and they do need to get things going. If the project has been stalled and things going on in the background, as I mentioned, making it stall, then this is it's a bit of an alarm bell ringing, isn't it? But don't forget, there was all the hype at Belgium, at Spa, when it got announced that Audi were coming. That was at Spa. Was it last year? Year before? Everything's molded into one. That Audi were coming, and it was huge fanfare, and etc., etc. And now maybe 22 was it? Wow. Time does fly when you're having fun. And now all of this is going on in the background. It's just a bit of a strange scenario. And as you mentioned, Seidel has been absent from most of the Grand Prix, more than most of the Grand Prix so far this season for Kick Sauber.
Yeah, and I'm sure Andreas Seidel is having buyer's remorse right now, leaving the McLaren team, thinking that he was going to this Audi project. I remember when they first announced that Audi was coming to F1. I'm sure you guys remember all the hype behind this. People were very excited to see Audi come into the pinnacle of motorsport. I know a lot of people were sad to see them in their sports car racing program in GT3, and obviously they were planning to build a prototype that was going to race in hypercar in the World Endurance Championship and the IMSA World Sports Car Championship GTP class. So they basically canned their prototype ambitions of winning Daytona, Sebring, Le Mans, all of the great endurance races in the world in favor of joining Formula One. And now it seemed like I've said, like Josh said, morale seems to be very low. So obviously we don't know what's going on behind the scenes at Audi, but based on what we've read so far from all of these wonderful motorsports journalists, it seems like things are not really peachy behind the scenes. And I guess if they're having trouble attracting quality staff, and all of the people are obviously have some thoughts of what's going on there. And if you can't attract quality staff, you're not going to be able to build a quality program. So maybe with Mattia Binotto coming on board, he could potentially try to get, like I said, get some of his former Ferrari people over there, try to get them to believe in it. And Binotto, he's going to be tasked with trying to build a team the way he sees fit now, since he's the one in control rather than a power struggle between those two. I'm not really sure where Carlos Sainz is going to be driving in 2025. Could Binotto potentially convince Sainz to join the team after all? Honestly, at this point, who really knows? There's still so much to decide in this Formula One silly season. What do you think, Josh?
I've always said I think Bottas would go back to Mercedes for a year and see how he ends up there. But I said that before what we had in Hungary, where, well, actually before we had that in the British Grand Prix as well, because I went away just after then, Kimi Antonelli winning the sprint race at Silverstone for F2. And then just this weekend as well, he's won the F2 feature race in Hungary. So Antonelli all of a sudden has exploded with talent, and he won very dominantly as well, the feature race, even after a late safety car. He was able to get like a 10-second lead in the feature. So I think he's now ready for an F1 seat. And I don't say that lightly about people, but I think he's generally got used to the talent now, and he's got used to these circuits again. So he's up there for me. Would they try and save him for 26 and put Bottas in for one more year of the regulations? Possibly. We'll have to wait and see how that works out. But the one thing I don't like is the fact that Zhou Guanyu has been so underperforming this year as well. He had brief good looks in China as well when he got up there with the 9th place in the sprint quali, and I think it was 10th in the sprint race. But other than that, he's been off the pace massively and not even qualifying out of Q1 for a lot. So that needs to improve. And I think Megan pointed this out as well, actually, over the Hungary weekend in one of the practice commentaries. Whereas every other team this year has been super serious, we've had Sauber seeming like, oh, we're just here for 2 years before Audi kick in. Like, they're not even taking it seriously. Sauber know they've got security in Formula One. So what's the point in 2 years? It's like they're not even trying. They're not bringing that many upgrades. They're not trying that hard on the track. They're not trying in qualifying, not trying the races. Bottas and Zhou are too busy making TikToks and catching balls or making adverts. It seems like they're just going like, well, we're stuck here for 2 years. We know we've got security. Why bother? And that's not the way you run an F1 team. And I think that is the reason Mattia Binotto's come in, because if Binotto did one thing right at Ferrari, he got them in order and got a little bit more structure to it as well, which I found quite interesting. And there was something about Maurizio Arrivabene I heard over the Hungary weekend as well, the one just before him as well, that he'd been charged with some... I've got it written down somewhere. He got charged with something as well for some sort of gambling thing. So it's always all around for... Ferrari team principals going and coming back, and then turning up in really weird ways. So yeah, just a little side rant there. But personally, I think Sauber could do better. But that silly season, as you mentioned, Kobe, I'm expecting once we get back after the summer break, it's all going to step up to 11, because you only have 10 races left and 10 races to sign a driver for 2025 when everything's exploded up. And we still don't know who's at Mercedes. We don't know who's going to be in the Red Bull. We don't know who's going to be in RB. I think Aston are locked in. Sauber still don't have one. Alpine don't. And it's just going to be mad. I can't wait. It's going to be fantastic. We still don't know who's going to be the second seat at Haas either, because there's rumours now that's Esteban Ocon. So, yeah, who knows? So we'll move on about that and go on to our second story of the evening. If we're all good, I'll move on.
Mm-hmm.
So excellent. Just letting everyone know. So, in a shocking development this morning, AO Racing announced that Seb Priaulx is departing their GTD program in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Now, what makes this news even more significant is that Priaulx currently leads the GTD Pro Championship standings with co-driver Lauren Heinrich as well in the number 77 Porsche, aka the Rexy, the same Porsche that will have the pink Roxy livery at Road America and Virginia International Raceway. What a circuit, just as a side note there. In a press release, AO Racing says that Priaulx leaves the team effective immediately to allow him to focus on his growing commitments with Multi-Manic Motorsports. Team Principal Gunnar Giannetti thanked Priaulx for his time with the team, and they're working with Porsche to find a suitable driver to replace Priaulx. Now, with 4 races to go for GTD Pro, the team hopes to announce a new co-driver alongside Heinrich in the coming days. The photo courtesy there of AO Racing as well. Just so surprising to have that so late in the season. So what do you think of Priaulx stepping away from GTD Pro despite being in a good position to win the championship? He's lost it effectively. I'll start with you, Kevin.
Yeah, and I'll save this part for Matt. It also has some big grid EPI implications as well. It's just very surprising to see Seb Priaulx bow out of this GTD Pro program. I thought him and Lauren Heinrich have been doing an excellent job all season long, leading the championship over Ross Gunn right now in that harder race in Aston Martin. It really seems like Seb Priaulx and Lauren Heinrich, they've been very consistent. They've won a couple of races, and they really seem like the favorite down the stretch to win this championship. I guess it's just going to be Lauren Heinrich now, and I'm sure Porsche is going to be able to provide them a very quick driver, just as quick as Seb Priaulx, to make sure that Lauren Heinrich can bring home this GTD Pro Championship for Porsche and for AO Racing. But yeah, this is really a head scratcher. Like you're saying, 4 races to go in this championship. I believe they got Road America, VIR, Indianapolis, and then Petit Le Mans at the end of the year. So, not many races to go. And for Seb Priaulx to leave this championship on the table, and I just don't understand it at all. I'm sure we're going to learn more ahead once we learn, like, what are these growing commitments? What Multimatic Motorsport? Make you wonder, what is Multimatic working on behind the scenes? And the only reason I can think Seb Priaulx leaving something like this is does Multimatic have a new prototype program coming on soon that's going to compete for overall wins at Daytona, Sebring, Le Mans, all of those places in IMSA and the World Endurance Championship? In my opinion, that's really the only reason I can see why Seb Priaulx would abandon a championship effort like this, because him and Lauren Heinrich, they've been controlling GTD Pro this year, and it's definitely really hard to walk away from championship. So I think it must have been something really good, like an offer that Seb Priaulx could not refuse, for him to step away from winning the championship, because as Lauren Heinrich goes on to win this championship, certainly going to sting a little bit.
Yeah, I'm very surprised to see this news come across the wires today. They've been the form team in GTD Pro of AO Racing, and as you mentioned, Rexy is getting its summer holiday, and Roxy is back for the next couple of races. The pink livery will be back on the car, which is excellent. But Lauren Heinrich will have to find himself a new stablemate. I'm sure Porsche will find someone in their catalogue of Porsche factory drivers. I'm sure it won't be too hard to find someone that can step in, but he may have a little bit of perhaps a revolving door, depending on clashes of teammates throughout the next couple of races. And Road America comes up in a couple of weeks' time, next weekend, in fact, not this coming weekend, but next weekend, first weekend of August. So maybe by the time we're back on, hopefully you would think so, by the time we're back on air with you on Grid Tonight next Wednesday, we'll know who Lauren Heinrich's teammate is going to be. But to make Seb Priaulx 9th in the Endurance Performance Index, we'll give you the points update for the week in a moment. He's I think he was certainly part of the Nürburgring 24 race last month and others. So Priaulx's score has only come from his IMSA races. So he could find himself fixed on his score now in the Grid Endurance Performance Index and confirm himself as a top 10. Jackson, hello to you. Says, could maybe a 963 Evo, hard to think it would be another OEM with how much Multimatic is already working again. And we know Multimatic was behind the Mazda program a few years back, and they've been doing some bits and pieces with Ford as well through time, including the. I'm pretty certain they were included in the Mustang GT3 project. I have to get that checked, but Prio has been contracted to them, and they've pulled the plug on this Porsche deal, so he's going back to them to whatever it could be. Keep our ears to the ground on that, and if we can squirrel away any news and find out what Multimatic are doing in California, or if you're watching in the UK, in Banbury, not too far away from ProDrive, they're literally round the corner. If you see a Seb Prio lookalike walking around Banbury over the next couple of weeks, it's not a lookalike, it's Sebastian Prio. So yeah, interesting to see how that one pans out, and maybe there is another OEM that we don't know about, just in the background, waiting to come to Le Mans in a couple of years' time with a Mr. S Prio in the car.
Oh, that'll be a lot of fun, won't it, as well? And I do love the Roxy livery more, I think, as well, because I always think of the Broadway musical every single time as well. I love it as well. It's just so fun. I like when they do it. I mean, have you seen the Deadpool livery that's coming up for Alpine this weekend?
No.
Yeah,
Really?
I saw it earlier today. I saw it earlier today. It looks really nice.
It looks good because obviously Deadpool's suit is mainly black, so they can use the red a bit more, and it's just a little bit better. But of course, Ryan Reynolds is a part team owner in that sort of conglomeration they've got there. So, of course, Deadpool v Wolverine is coming out this week on Friday. I know I'm going to go see it with Megan, and it is now a sort of red Deadpool front nose and rear wing, and sort of his eye covers on the side of the car. So it looks like his face on the car. It looks fantastic. And yeah, that's going to be, I think, one of the special liveries that we all remember going forward. But ironic they give it to a team that's dead behind the eyes. Go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'll go back to a not from earlier in the season. Yay, one-off liveries.
Oh, then.
If you see it on the TV, of course, because it'll be in the region of 14th to 18th during the Grand Prix, more than likely.
Oh, last. It'll rain in qualifying. They'll put them out on dry tyres or something with them. They'll qualify last, or Gasly will start in the pit lane, as has been his case for the past two races, or just something go wrong.
Or they'll get pulled into an imaginary Parc Ferme. Oh no, that was Aston Martin.
Does somebody want to write these down? I will give you the 5 drivers who'll get eliminated in Q1. Zhou Guanyu in 20th. Esteban Ocon will be in 19th. Pierre Gasly will be in 18th place as well. Kevin Magnussen will be in 17th position. And Lance Stroll will be in 16th. They'll be the 5 drivers you'll see out in Q1.
You're going to go with Logan Sargent making it to Q2?
I will, because Williams in the wet at Spa is quite good. And he's surprised. Yeah. He's been quite good the past couple of races as Logan in qualifying. Yeah,
better now. He looks like he's driving for a job.
Yeah, definitely. So I think they're my 5 who's going to be
an IndyCar job.
For an IndyCar job. In a team that sounds firmly like Raymer from Italy, begins with a P.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Actually, that's gone silent, hasn't it? Since it got announced, I've not heard one.
Actually no. The Prima IndyCar driver. The Prima IndyCar project has not gone silent at all. I just read an article on that on motorsport.com, and they've already been getting the chassis ready to go. They've already been mapping out their new facility in Fishers, Indiana, close to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and they've just really been getting all the right people in the right places. They said they're even going to bring some of their staff over from Europe to the United States to work on this IndyCar program. So Prima, they were hitting the ground running hard, and they're making sure that they're leaving no stone unturned. They intend to come straight into IndyCar and be competitive right away. But we know IndyCar is very competitive. It's going to be very hard for them, to find immediate success. But I won't put it past Prima. We've seen them enter new series before, and given their track record in Europe on the road to F1 ladder system, it would not surprise me to see Prima start off right in the middle of the pack. And now the thing that they're going to be working on the next is trying to hire their drivers. I know Logan Sargent has been rumored to join that team. And then who else is they going to pair up alongside him? There's so many drivers on the free agent market. There's no telling.
K-Mag. Yeah, he's done an IndyCar race. He did IMSA for a bit. I think K-Mag could be a little bit of a shout there. I'm sure Grosjean might have told him, look, it's fun over here. Come and have a go. Yeah, the K-Mag's not a bad shout. We'll hear from that later on because Kobe's got more later. But next, it's Matt with the latest and the Grid EPI update.
Thank you, Josh. And we mentioned the Grid EPI. And here is your update for the week, which was, as I mentioned last week, it's starting to dip slightly down over the next couple of weeks because, of course, there is the Summer Olympiad in Paris beginning on Friday, although really today. A couple of races in America last week. The GT World Challenge America was at VIR. 2 races, Alec Udell and Tommy Milner getting their second win of the season for Corvette on Saturday. Phil Ellis and Jeff Burton, no, not the one from NBC, winning on Sunday for Mercedes. And at Hockenheim, the European Sprint Cup for GT World Challenge Europe was in action. Win for Mercedes on home ground on Saturday with Mauro Engel and Lucas Auer. Ben Green and Konstant Lapalainen winning for the Ferrari team on Sunday. So that is the update from the races. Here is the update from the points. And I mentioned Konstant Lapalainen because he has a new entry in the top 10. There he is in 10th position, the young Finn, after his first GT World Challenge Europe Sprint Cup victory alongside the Ben Green on Sunday. He's the only change in the top 10. Everybody above him did not feature in any of those 4 races over the weekend. We're now 17 weeks into the season. 83 races out of 152 scored towards the Grid Endurance Performance Index of 2024. This weekend coming up, we only have a single race, and the GT World Challenge Europe stays in Germany, and they're at the Nürburgring for the next round of the Endurance Cup, 3rd round of that season. Not been in action since the Spa 24 last month, so a 3-hour race at the Nürburgring on Sunday for those guys. If Cody can flick the page and turn it up to the top 50, we'll show you can pick out some of your favourite drivers. There you go. Throughout, and plenty of those names will be in that Nürburgring race on the Grand Prix track, of course, not the Nordschleife, on Sunday. Mauro Engel got that win at Hockenheim on Saturday. He still is the top starter in the EPI. He's raced in 25 of the 83 scoring races. Samantha Tan is still top of the female list. She's dropped, though, to 152nd in the standings on 6.38 points. So exactly 3 points outside of the top 50 after not such great results for her at VIR alongside Neil Verhagen at the weekend. Another update on the show next week with that Nürburgring race to tell you about. Now it's time to go back to Kobe with the rest of the headlines from a slightly slower news week.
Oh, and I think I was muted there, guys. Time for some more motorsports news from around the world. And Josh just mentioned him, Kevin Magnussen. He's not going to return to Haas F1 in 2025. This comes as Nico Hülkenberg plans to depart Haas for the Sauber team that will eventually transition to Audi, which we just finished talking about, and plus the recent signing of Ollie Bearman to a full-time Haas seat on the F1 grid. Magnussen leaves Haas as the longest tenured driver in team history, with this year being his 7th season with the team in 2 different stints. And in 175 career Grand Prix races, Magnussen has driven for Haas in 135 of them. Magnussen seems to be at peace with his F1 career officially coming to an end this time, who said he's looking forward to sharing the next phase of his racing journey. Graphic courtesy of Haas F1. And staying with Haas, the 2023 NASCAR Xfinity Series champion Cole Custer will return to the Cup Series in 2025. Custer will drive the number 41 Ford for the single-car Haas factory team. After the team in its current form, Stuart Haas Racing ceases operations at the end of the year. Haas will receive support from Ford Performance with an RFK Racing Technical Alliance. Custer said his biggest goal was to return the Cup after getting demoted to Xfinity after struggling during his first Cup stint. Now Custer returns to the premier level as the Xfinity Series champion, who's gotten better as a driver and learned from his past mistakes. The team also offered Riley Herbst, the winner of the Xfinity race on the IMS Oval. They offered Riley one of their Xfinity seats for next year at Haas Factory team, and graphic is courtesy of the team. Now some sports car news. Aston Martin has started testing its Valkyrie AMR LMH prototype that will compete next year in the FIA World Endurance Championships Hypercar class and the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championships GTP class. Aston Martin is set to become the first manufacturer to run an LMH in both WC and IMSA competition with the harder racing. So far, we've only seen LMH cars in the WC. The Valkyrie AMH LMH officially hit the track for the first time in the United Kingdom with the harder racing as Aston Martin attempts to win Le Mans overall next year for the first time since 1959. So it's been a long time since an Aston Martin has been at the top step of the overall podium. And the car was driven by Darren Turner, Mario Farnbacher, and Harry Tinknell in testing. Adam Carter, Aston Martin head of Endurance Motorsports, said that they're satisfied with the car early in testing because it's hitting all the targets they wanted to achieve. A photo there courtesy of Aston Martin. In the MotoGP news, Trackhouse Racing's MotoGP team re-signed Raul Fernandez for the 2025 and 2026 season. Since Trackhouse decided to expand to MotoGP, Fernandez has embraced the vision of a new dynamic and competitive American team. In his first season in MotoGP competition, Trackhouse's performance has improved throughout the year as they qualified on the front row and got a sprint race podium at the German Grand Prix. Team owner Justin Mark said Fernandez has tremendous speed and talent, believing that he'll get closer to the top step of the podium as he gains more experience. Fernandez himself said it was a priority for him to stay with the team after he heard their plans for their future. Graphic courtesy of Trackhouse Racing, MotoGP. After impressing many people in the high-limit race and sprint car series, one of the top young prospects in the country, Corey Day, will make his ARCA Menard Series debut. Day will make his first ARCA start this weekend at Salem Speedway, driving a number 28 Chevrolet for Pinnacle Racing Group. And this is the same team that's already gone to victory lane multiple times this year with Connor Zilic and Connor Mosat. Day will also make 2 additional ARCA starts at Bristol and Kansas later this season. He'll be sponsored by HendrickCars.com, the driver some have referred to as the next coming of Kyle Larson. Graphic courtesy of Hendrick Automotive Group. JD Motorsports team owner Johnny Davis confirmed the NASCAR Xfinity Series team filed for bankruptcy protection, and he's working towards reorganizing the team's finances. In a statement, Davis said they're working toward racing again because racing has been a huge part of his life, acknowledging his desire to fill strong cars and a strong, sustainable program. The team is continuing to build race cars and seeing how his reorganized team can fit in. Despite struggling to be competitive in recent years, Davis remains optimistic by saying that some of the biggest companies in the country have reorganized through bankruptcy. Graphic courtesy of JD Motorsports. And now some positive news. A month after suffering a terrifying crash in the NHRA event at Virginia Motorsports Park, 16-time funny car champion John Forrest was discharged yesterday. He was discharged yesterday from Barrow Neurological Institute in Phoenix, Arizona. Forrest has been going through rehab for a traumatic brain injury he suffered in the crash. His family says Forrest will continue to work with therapists that specialize in these injuries in what is now on an outpatient basis in California. The next phase in the recovery process will be outpatient speech and occupational and physical therapy, which will help address any lingering short-term memory and cognitive issues. Photo courtesy of Brittany Forrest. Really great to see that John Forrest is on the road to recovery there. And now I'm going to throw it over to Matt for Hots and Nots.
Thank you, Kobe. Yeah, that is a big hot, and we send our best wishes to John Force and the Force family. Quick, before we get into Hots and Nots, we're not doing Pick a Winner tonight, but of course there will be Pick a Winner points up for grabs at the weekend with the Spa Grand Prix, and that is the only Pick a Winner race of the weekend. So make sure you get your guesses in for Pick a Winner and use the hashtag Pick a Winner across all of the Grid Network TV social media accounts. Josh is back from his break and his little trip to Donington. So JB, the floor is yours. Tell us about World Superbike at Donington Park.
It is so good. Honestly, I really enjoyed it. Like, I wasn't in the commentary box. I was just able to stand back and travel to the race. And honestly, I really enjoyed it. I've never been able to get away mid-season before and have a proper holiday. It's always been like you're stuck from middle of February until the end of December. And it really does get you down, and you're constantly in the commentary box. So to spend a weekend away, yes, at a racetrack, but not doing what you normally do is fantastic. So to take you right through it, I was there Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 8:30 a.m. until 5 o'clock, sometimes even 7 o'clock at night. The Saturday was until about 9 o'clock at night, but that was because we all had a party. But to go through it all, it was fantastic. Like, the paddock access you get, even with a standard ticket, is absolutely amazing. The riders are friendly and funny. The paddock show by Michael Hill was fantastic. And every session standing on the commentary was good enough for me and him to have conversations as well. But I would be remiss to say that the only Superbike action I saw was the final race of the day on Sunday, because I spent most of my time in the Women's Championship racing paddock as well, because I went down and finally met up with Maddie Patterson and Simon, and they were a right laugh as well. Simon's fantastic. They were filming as well with the UCL, the University Centre London, their squad. So they had Bella down and Usri down as well. So they were just young female engineers, part of the Formula Student Academy that was racing this weekend at Silverstone. And they were down working on the bikes. They had a documentary being filmed by Trent, and just be able to talk with them over 3 days as well was fantastic. To learn everything was brilliant. The access, Maddie, literally when she was there, because she was running around everywhere being team principal and journalist and everything, she said she was so excited to hear what I thought of it, because it's a unique perspective. Because she said you're used to being standing in the commentary box, seeing all that happening on TV. When you're thrown into it, it's something else. And let me tell you something, being in that paddock, when it gets up to a race time, it's unbelievable, because we had Maddie as well being there as team principal, talking to the riders, doing all the media interviews, getting everywhere where they need to be as well. But she's actively involved in moving the bikes from paddock to pit lane. It's a very small, unique family atmosphere. But you've got Mallory Dobbs over there in America. You'll know her in Moto America. And for British fans, you've got Lizzie Whitmore. Now, they were fantastic. Like, they were absolutely fantastic. Not like any other race drivers. By the end of it, we were all friends and conversations, having laughs and jokes and hugs and everything. It was fantastic. So, on Friday in the first practice session, Mallory's never ridden the track. She went down at Craner. She became part of the Craner club. No damage to her. That was okay. Bike took a long time to come back because the bikes were paired by Yamaha themselves, so that took a long time because it was no damage, but the roll bar and the handlebar was sort of caved in and that had to be replaced. But it was good qualifying. Everyone was really happy Friday night actually with qualifying and how it all went. It was really light, positive. Everything was good because it sort of had a sprinkling of rain, then dried out, so everyone got quicker. We come to warm up on the Saturday and everything's fine. Comes to race on Saturday. I'm like, right, here we go. Lizzie's starting 19th, Mallory's starting 12th, and we're like, let's go. Mallory gets a great start, and she's running up in 10th place. And then, as I'm crossing back underneath from the start line to the pit lane, I hear that Lizzie's crashed at Craner. And all of a sudden, there's no red flag, obviously, but she is taken to the medical center. So we all get back in, and then we all get back into the WCR paddock, and we're all just waiting around. We're watching the race on the monitor, and then we see on the last corner of the last lap, Mal's running in 10th place. She's going to get a world championship point. She gets taken out as well by Lucy, who we were sharing a pit garage with. So she's right. So Mal goes down at Goddard's and isn't happy, but then was cheered herself up and said, hugged Lucy and everything as well, and was really great. But everyone's attention was on the fact that Lizzie wasn't back. We found out she was taken to the medical center and she had broken her wrist. She'd shattered it. So she came back about 2 hours later, to which it was me, Mallory, her engineer John, Bella, Usri, and just all sort of, and Trent, all sort of sat in a circle in the garage where everybody else has all their bikes there, bar us with both bikes missing, being repaired. That wasn't great. But we all had to stay. We all couldn't leave. Everyone wanted to go, let's go. But we were all, well, to be fair, we were all supposed to be singing Spice Girls, but then she broke her wrist, Lizzie. So Mallory did Shania Twain. That don't impress me much. And that lifted everybody's spirits on Saturday. That was absolutely fantastic because I've got the full video as well. Keep threatening to send it to her. Put it online. But yeah, so Lizzie's got a broken wrist. She's out for the rest of the weekend. She's also not racing in Portimao in a couple of weeks because she don't want to risk it. Maddie said, no, you're not racing, you're not risking it. So Mallory went on about 7:30 and she came second in the talent contest. We were all like, we got cheated. But at one point she said, that, oh, so you're Brad Pitt, that don't impress me much. She changed to, oh, so you're Sam Lowe's, that don't impress me much. And Sam, unbeknownst to her, came out and started throwing programs out into the crowd as well. So Sam was a real laugh with that. But yeah, so that was fun. And then everyone was sort of like, okay, Lizzie's out, but Mallory's still in. Let's have a good Sunday. So everyone was okay. Everything was okay leaving Saturday. And then we all got there Sunday, and everyone was really knackered Sunday morning. Let me tell you something. It was a really hot Sunday morning. So Mal went out for warm up. She was okay. And then Lizzie came for the race and was watching on the pit stall with Maddie. And it comes to the race because ours was about 12:20, race one. Oh, second race for us on the Sunday. Mal's starting 12th. She gets a demon launch and is running 8th. And it continues to run 8th. And we're all going, yes, big points, 6 points on the board. And then the rain just starts to come down a bit and she crashes out at Goddard's again. And the front dips away from her. And she goes like that. And then she gives her knee sliders to some young girls who are watching on as well and all that lot. And comes back into the paddock. And after that, the mood really shifted. Everybody was like, this weekend's really not been ours. So everyone was really depressed. But I loved that they picked themselves up. Mallory and John didn't let Yamaha repair the bike. Mallory and John repaired it themselves. For Mallory, I think it was a way of dealing with what happened over the weekend. And she said on her Instagram post as well how it was one of her worst weekends in racing. And she really thought about quitting, giving it all up. But I thought she was amazing because it was a track she's never raced at before, ever. And it's a difficult track, Donington, and she did perfect. So it was a bad weekend for the team, but a great weekend for me to be able to see how it all worked out and to be involved in all the debrief sessions, all the riders, data sessions, being able to talk to them, ask questions, learn about the bikes, and just see how a team runs from a Friday to a Sunday was something that I'll never be more grateful for than Maddie for giving me that opportunity to be there. So definitely fantastic. And we've got some footage and it's all being worked on and be out on the channel soon. But yeah, I'm definitely fantastic. And yeah, I've now come away with, I've got Lizzie's sticker on the back of the JB Motorsports banner. I've got Mallory's on my headset. And it was just fantastic. And I wish I could be there at Portimao. I really could. As Julia, our colleague here, notes, it really is a family atmosphere. And I say it a lot, but the World Superbike paddock, it's one giant family. And it is fantastic. And I really enjoyed it. And I really do miss Mallory and Lizzie and Maddie and Simon and Bella and Usher and all of them. I miss all of them. Miss them all. But yeah, that was my weekend at Donington. And then I went and had 3 days in Europe. That was my holiday.
If anyone's not got a clue what Josh has been talking about, if you look on YouTube for World WCR, it is the female equivalent to F1 Academy, or the biking equivalent, should I say, to F1 Academy. It's on the World Superbike paddock at the moment. This year, it's going to MotoGP next year. I don't know if that's actually been confirmed yet for next year or not. It has. Okay, good.
I had it as the nod to me. Yeah. I had it as
the races are up on YouTube from in Portimao in 3 weeks' time. So looking forward to and WCR. Away from Donington and back to what happened at the weekend, I think we need to talk about Hungary, don't we? In more detail.
Yes.
We touched on it briefly, but Adam says, what's hot, the Xfinity Series race at Indy? Let's throw that in before we go in full bore on Hungary.
Yeah, so I've lagged out there a little bit, but yeah, that Xfinity race was absolutely fantastic, wasn't it? That I think the whole weekend sort of gave us some good racing at the Brickyard, and it's only that finish that we'll talk about later that I'm not really happy about. But the Xfinity race was chef's kiss.
So then, everyone being petulant at each other for 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon, I had the race on my tablet on the kitchen table, pacing up and down, going, please do the right thing here. For goodness sake, please do the right thing here. And I wasn't talking about Lando Norris. I was talking about the stewards, but more on that in a moment. Matthew Owen says the entire weekend at Indianapolis was so great. Apart from the ending. Talk about that in a minute. Congratulations, Oscar Piastri. Brilliant. Finally, Matthew Owens, a Grand Prix winner, not just an F1 race winner, but a Grand Prix winner. That's been an in-joke between the two of us for the last year or so. Say again?
Should have had a bet on he did it in Hungary. I mean, come on. We should have figured that
Everyone
out.
does it
It
in
was
Hungary.
going to be in Hungary. Yeah, everyone does it in Hungary. Everybody.
But yeah, that was all a bit much, do you think, between Lando and the team?
I think McLaren have suddenly got the fastest car on the grid because Red Bull have lost Adrian Newey, and literally the first upgrade they bring when he hasn't had the deciding cast on it, the car suddenly goes wrong, and it was two different specs. There was version 1 upgrade on Perez, version 2 on Max. Both didn't work. That's alarming going forward, and that's the first one that where Adrian hasn't given it the old rubber stamp. So McLaren have the fastest car on the grid. And I was saying in commentary, if anybody thinks that this is McLaren stealing a race away from Lando Norris, it's not. What happened was that they boxed Lando to defend from Lewis, but Lewis cleared the lap traffic, so came out ahead. And then he boxed. And then Oscar got caught up in that traffic that Lewis was supposed to, in the lap traffic, and didn't box on time. So Lando came out ahead of Lewis and ahead of Oscar because of the lap traffic and where it was. So McLaren sort of screwed Oscar and deserved to give it back to him. Oscar had run a fantastic race, Lando hadn't. And I couldn't understand why Lando wouldn't accept the team order. And for it to go on so long, it was getting worse and worse as it was going. And when he did it on the start-finish straight, I said in commentary as well, in a move very similar to Australia in 1998, Lando moves over to let Oscar through. And it did feel like that. And I think Martin Brundle said in his column as well on Sky, he's managed a driver that's had races taken away from him in the past. And he knows that it's a different thing. But on one side of the coin, you can understand why Lando was annoyed. On the other, you can understand why Oscar's annoyed. In my opinion, what was right to do was that Oscar was messed up in the strategy with the team. It's a team's championship. It's a team championship. Oscar should have won the race. Oscar deserved to win that race. Lando didn't. And if Lando didn't let him through, it would have tainted it. It would have tainted my view of Lando. It has a bit, but I don't like how the fact that McLaren have now tainted Oscar's first win because he wasn't like, yes, over the radio. He was like, yeah, well done. Good job. So, yeah.
Yeah, it smacked of a team that's found itself in this position a little bit and it doesn't really know what to do with itself, even though it's McLaren. You know, they've not been at the pointy end, really, have they, since 2008?
Yes, a long time now.
Lewis won the championship, apart from the odd few races with Jensen and Lewis when they were teammates together, but really, really running at the front consistently since 08. They just got themselves a bit muddled, confused, wasn't sure what they, just one of those things. I don't think it'll happen again, but yeah, there would have been absolute fireworks if Lando had stuck to his original guns there, and he was kind of like, well, I caught him up and he's got to catch me up. It's not fair on me, etc., etc. Yeah, and those radio messages were just getting more and more. Please slow down. Please slow down, Lando. Please.
It reminded me of that scene, do you remember in The Simpsons where Mr. Burns gives the $1 trillion to the Cubans and he goes, give it back now. Give what back? It reminded me of that. He acted like a child. And to be fair, I know you're going to bring on Max in a second, but it was the Hungarian Grand Prix that was just for whining. It was brilliant.
Wasn't it just? Yeah. And let's go to the other whingy McWhinge face of the day, which is the current world champion, who, to go with the Crofty line, had clearly stayed up far too late.
I know.
Yeah, he's been berated for that, hasn't he, Crofty?
Even
tweet? Ted was getting on his back about it during the race, which I thought was quite funny. How or why there was no penalty on Max for his... No. He came from the centre of Budapest. He came from so far back on Hamilton there at turn 1. Clattered his way past in Bottas bowling pin turn 1 a couple of years ago, Style E, at the Hungaroring. And ended up... I know it cost him 2 positions and ended up 5th behind Charles. But
the steward said as well that car 44 could have made more effort to avoid the collision. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What? Turn on ghost mode on an F1 game as well. It was like, where was he supposed to go? It was like he came in so far late. Max has become insufferable. He really has. And to bring up that point, actually, about Crofty, everybody slated him, as you said. And now
I agree.
it's announced today. I agree too. I literally
Mm.
said in commentary before I even knew Crofty had said about it. I said, as soon as he was moaning over the radio, I said in commentary, now Max is up until 3 a.m. He got 4 hours sleep, and then he was up doing a 3-hour stint before he even came to the track in the morning. So he's only got 4 hours sleep, and he's been racing non-stop. Is that a factor as to why he's been so frustrated over the radio this weekend? And now everyone was like, Megan Reed was like, oh yeah, maybe. He's like, he doesn't need sleep and all that. We went on a jokey path about it. This is in the first 35 laps of the race when it was Buddha, and not the last 35 when it was Pest. But so yeah, I thought it was quite good in the commentary too.
Very good. Yeah, very good.
I said in the commentary that Max shouldn't do the sim racing, and I'm a sim racing commentator, so I can say these things. It was the wrong decision, and now it's come out today that Red Bull have mutually agreed with him that he will no longer do sim racing on an F1 weekend.
Sure.
Yeah, it's basically Christian going, stop it now, because he was like, if you think about it, Richie said about he did it in Saudi. That's fine. There's a big enough time difference in Saudi where you can get a full night's sleep still.
Imola as well.
He did it in Imola. And what happened in Imola? Oh, yeah, he made several mistakes during the Grand Prix and only won by 7/10 to Lando Norris.
On a track that you can't overtake on.
Yeah. So if that was a track where you could overtake, Max wouldn't have won that race.
Maybe.
And then here in Hungary, what's happened is that he's done an extra stint that he wasn't supposed to do because the team member dropped out, but he's lost the race.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he did the stint until 3 a.m. Had 4 hours sleep, and then woke up again and did another 3-hour stint. Then came to the track. So I think he was actually late for a meeting as well. He was late for morning briefing.
Right. It was the iRacing Spa 24 hours, wasn't it? The week, the big iRacing event. The Spa, yes.
Max is going to win this weekend though, by now.
Because of course it should be the Spa 24 hours this weekend, but until Formula One stole their date last year, but nevertheless.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I agreed straight away with Crofty. That's a midweek gig. If you're going to be if you want to be doing that, that's a summer break gig and a midweek gig. Don't get that involved in your Grand Prix weekend, especially now where the championship is closing. What is it, 30 points between Red Bull and McLaren now, because it's 2 cars against 1, basically, at the front of the field. I have to agree with Ben's point, and I'll elaborate slightly before we'll come to Astral's comment in a second. I'll agree with Ben where this was kind of he's fallen into the Sebastian Vettel Red Bull channel. He's really good when he's out front on his own.
Oh yeah,
he gets back in the field and he's got cars to race around. This is what happened before Red Bull were really good, when he crashed into Ricciardo at Baku, such like. So yeah,
he doesn't remember.
No, exactly. It's been too long. Astral says, "I am crazy, but am I crazy? Sorry, but FIA and F2 and F3 sometimes make sense, but when it comes to F1, basically do whatever they feel like each weekend. There is no consistency." Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Another high-level championship, much like I mentioned with MotoGP. Before we went on the air, and if you haven't seen the MotoGP, this is a hot MotoGP hot. It's not hot that someone's lost their job, but they are retiring, which is the former world champion Freddie Spencer, who is the rider's steward, basically, for MotoGP. He's going to retire at the end of the season and hand the baton off to pit lane reporter Simon Crafar, if you watch the world feed. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens there, because MotoGP penalty things have been just terrible for the last couple of years, since COVID, really. I feel like
since COVID, yeah. Oh no, 2018 even. Do you remember Crutchlow and the jump start in Kota? Oh, I just don't know if Matt's frozen or I've frozen there about it, but I'll continue my point. Yeah, there was a jump start at Kota in 2018. Cal Crutchlow didn't move until the lights went out and just rolled when they went out, and Freddie Spencer said, "Oh yeah, jump the start." Cal was so annoyed about it as well. Oh, you're back, good. Yeah, Cal was so annoyed about it. And it's just like, yeah, what? He's like, what do you do? So I think he called the stewards blind or something. Or he got done for it as well.
Johann Zarco got into trouble earlier in the year for going up into the steward's office and calling them all clowns or something. I can't remember what race that was at. Le Mans, I think, or F, or somewhere around the early portion of the season.
Well, I won't name names, but I spoke to a lot of people, a lot of high-up people who work in World Superbikes and MotoGP, who every single one of them all jumped for joy and said, can't wait for when Liberty Media come in. We all hate Dorna. Every single person I spoke to who worked there hate Dorna. Now, doesn't that say something as well? I know I've gone about Dorna a lot on this show, but yeah, everyone hates Dorna.
Here's a MotoGP knot, which I probably should have mentioned last week, but I forgot. And now you're back, Josh, so you can comment on this. The Kazakhstan Grand Prix was scrapped last year, was put back on the calendar this year. It was then moved and into the accommodating date of India, which was the end of October, or somewhere in October. So India was then off the calendar. It's now gone again to be replaced by a second race at Misano, which is happening 2 weeks after they're at Misano. A week before they need to be in Indonesia. Yes, that's correct. What?
It's insane.
Misano to Indonesia in a week. It's just stupid.
Oh.
Absolute bonkers.
Well, there's another part to that story as well that I thought I had a daydream about, but Simon Patterson was able to confirm that it actually happened. Remember, in that step where it was announced originally that Kazakhstan was cancelled, it was announced that Qatar would host a second race as the Doha Grand Prix on that same date. Now, I could not find that press release again, and I could not find anybody talking about it. So I messaged Simon and said, did I daydream that? And he said, no, Dorna wanted 5 million from Qatar to host it, and they said, go away. So they came to them and said, look, we'll host it for you. All right, give us 5 million then. And they're like, we're doing you a favour here. Go away. Yeah. So, yeah, they said go away. And that's why we've got a second race at Misano now. And even worse, it's the same weekend in the same region. We've now got a World Superbike race and a MotoGP race within 2 hours of each other in the same Emilia-Romagna region. It's insane.
Run by the same company. So hello, Dorna.
I know, and if they were smart, they'd put the two together. The paddock's big enough at Misano for two. Put them together.
World Superbike have been to Misano this year, have they? Yes, they have.
Yeah.
Of course they have. That's where WSCR started. So, well, and it's the first round, the first ever race at Cremona for WSBK that weekend. So maybe they couldn't do that. Let's, before we go completely running out of time, let's talk about Indianapolis, because I think we're both knotting on the Cup race. It was a really good race. It was a tremendous race until those last couple of cautions, which just killed all the, for me, and I said this to Matthew Owens and to Seth.
We heard. I had you on.
Yeah. I think I said this in a message in the week. The last race I did was New Hampshire that we commentated on. That was just a terrible finish. This one was just awful as well. Can we just get to the end of a race properly, please? They should have. But Ryan Preece, that we had the big accident which moved the wall at turn one. Fine, yeah, understand that. Had to delay 20 minutes or whatever while they repaired the track and etc. etc. That's fine. I get that. But then the last one with Ryan Preece, who was out of fuel and had flat tires, that car was not moving.
It should have been instant yellow.
Don't understand. They should, and they had plenty of time to throw the caution before Larson got back to the white flag. Now, don't get me wrong, the result I quite liked, but I just smacks of, again, lack of consistency from race control.
It was a payback, wasn't it? Because they called the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte early, and this was sort of like, okay, you can't get the 500, you couldn't do the double, we'll give you this one. So, and it was a bit like, yeah. And if it wasn't for overtime as well, Brad Keselowski would have won that race because the yellow came out.
Or would he have run out of fuel on the last lap?
Yeah,
that's what we were testing during the race. Is how far can he go?
He did do the 6 laps under the caution, but I to be honest with you, everybody, I know some people like it, some people hate it. I think if we have overtimes, it should be a maximum of 2. We need a cap on it, otherwise it just gets silly.
Yeah, which we saw at Nashville a couple of weeks ago. Where did he get to 5 or 6 overtimes?
5, 6. Limit, wasn't it? Yeah.
When Logano won, so
daft.
I know a lot of people in and around this team and others are quite thankful of a couple of weeks off of NASCAR while we have this Olympic break. Ben says, just dump overtime entirely. I've had enough of these fast going on finishes. We don't even get a green flag finish half the time anyway. Yeah. And again, to back onto the Indianapolis point, we've had last year we had the terrible 500 finish, and now we've had this one, and just not what that place needs. The 30-lap run at the end of regulation, Matthew says, was the most dramatic lap of the season. Don't disagree. Nothing from this season has been better than that. Yeah, it was tremendous. Larson cutting his way through on fresh tyres. He was the only one that would make. You can't pass at Indianapolis apparently, and apparently you still can't.
Oh, we could.
If he could, and he was doing it, he was going to the front.
Wonder how much, because I said in the commentary he's done like 2,000 odd laps. How much has that helped?
That's when he done in the maybe.
I've got one more knot. Just one more knot. I know NBC don't care about IndyCar anymore. It's plainly obvious with their production at the moment. Like, they couldn't give a monkey. But
much like Sauber, they're phoning it in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But for the love of God, if you don't stop putting IndyCar and NASCAR races head to head at the same time, I am going to literally go over to America, storm NBC, and get people in headlocks until they say, all right, we'll change it. Because I'm so tired of it. I start an IndyCar race, I have to leave halfway through to go and call the NASCAR race because it's a big one. It's like you've got the Brickyard 400. Oh yeah, by the way, we've got the IndyCar race at the same time, and that's on Peacock. It's like just get a grip. Fox cannot come soon enough in that regard because they won't clash them. But NBC, come on! And one more thing as well. If you dare, and this is purely for you over there in America because we had it okay over here, but they moved the Brickyard 400, which is apparently a Crown Jewel event. They moved it off NBC. They started it on USA. They had 4 laps before moving it back to NBC. Then under the red flag before the end of the race, they moved it back to USA. So it went from NBC to USA to NBC to USA. And then I think it was on CNBC at one point as well. How? It's like, I generally don't think, for God's sake, we really need NBCSN back. Because the amount of hopping that it's doing over there is ridiculous. It really is. NBC needs a sports channel.
To NBC's defense, I will have to say that was a fairly big.
Oh yeah, old man with Alzheimer's retires.
But they do, just for one of my favourite phrases, the casual fan cannot follow a 4-hour event if it's on 3 channels across the 4 events. God bless the BBC, starting from Saturday morning, where their Olympic coverage starts at 8 a.m. and doesn't finish until midnight every day, with the odd stop for a news break. Yeah. And his passes look like he was in an IndyCar, says Matthew about Kyle Larson. So yeah, don't disagree on that. They didn't even give lead. They didn't give lead. We did. I did. He was my hot on the show last week because he called a McLaughlin and a Will Power win at Iowa last week and didn't get a send off.
I didn't know that. I wasn't there.
No, he had a plane to catch. It's Paris, of course. Yeah, we're all going to.
Well, I hope Lee has sent a message in for the end of the year. Be careful what you're with Fox. Yeah, it's just I just want them not at the same time because certainly at the start of the year we won't have it, will we? When Fox have got their races, we won't have it. So it's like, thank you.
Pre-Indianapolis, when IndyCar have got 2 races on. Yeah, I've talked about the calendar to death on this show. It'll be fine. The broadcast was atrocious, says Matthew, and for the sake of broadcasting, the pit reporters are reporting. Oh my goodness, he's brought this up. I'm gonna have to talk about it. Marty Schneider talking about Tyler Reddick on the racetrack while standing in Ty Gibbs's pit, I don't know what he was trying to do. Call the pit stop rather than talk about cars on the racetrack, Marty. I know you're trying to angle for a full-time comms gig for one of the many broadcasters next year. It's plainly obvious to see. It cringes me. The last couple of weeks has not been good. Anyway, that's enough bashing of NBC. We don't need NBC SM back. We need NBC to get out of sports entirely, says Ben. And this is the opinion of Mr. Ben Schneider.
I did think that, but I was going to back off and not say that.
Let's back off and back out.
If during NASCAR, we need a NASCAR provider over here in the UK that's not on Premier Sports because of that they're desperately clinging on to that because it's the only good thing they've got on Premier Sports. So yeah,
La Liga. They'll get more people watching. No, they get more people watching La Liga than they do NASCAR. Well,
so they can drop NASCAR then. They can drop it. They give it to Sky or TNT. For God's sake,
won't have it. They won't have it.
Ooh, one more. If TNT go to an ad break during a Formula E race one more time, I'm going to scream. It was round 15 in a title-deciding weekend. They cut to commercial. And you know why? Because they were supposed to go to commercial on Quest and forgot the button. They went on TNT one, not Quest. So that was great.
Yeah. Can't wait to watch that when I get through my recording. They're working with Amazon to do the NBA from TNT, and they're shoving hundreds of hours of their programming onto the streaming service, whose name we shall not mention, says Ben.
Peacock?
we had better pit reporting on CBS in '79 when one reporter was a newspaper writer and the other was a former driver of a wire that only allowed them to take 6 steps in either direction, says Matthew. Yes, when you change to a post because of the equipment. Matt, come on. We can never bash up. Well, I know, but we do it enough on this show. I feel like we just give them a break from time to time. I know it's hard.
Hell, give it to Eurosport at this point as well. They're doing all right. That's TNT Sports, by the way, still over here. I think I saw Eurosport's commentary setup as well for World Superbikes. Bigger than ITV's for touring cars, that's for sure. Massive complex they had. ITV literally had a little tiny studio and then a couple of vans. Over here, they had everything. It was massive. I was kind of like 6 different trucks. It was brilliant. But yeah, I think are we all knotted out?
We're all knotted out for this week. More after Spa, you can be sure.
Oh, lap 1 contact with someone. That's going to be it. I can't wait for next week. It's good to be back, isn't it? My mouse has gone to sleep.
That was circa Alonso Charles Leclerc moment, Romain Grosjean at turn 1.
I'm warming up my voice already. Ready for it as well. Do you know? Actually, I thought I did quite well in the commentary. Actually, it's a week away. I thought I was more fluid, like not getting me lefts and rights mixed up. And now I'm going to look like a mime artist on that one of the race as well. Thanks to the bandages. I'm all right. Don't worry. It's just a bit of skin burn with the eczema stuff. Something's flared it, so I look like Deadpool. Coincidentally enough. So, taking a look at our upcoming schedule as well. Saturday, our Grid Live pre-race. That's previewing Formula 1 at Spa. Sunday, our Grid Live our Grid Live wrap-up. That's earlier than ever because there's no NASCAR or IndyCar because the Olympic break. So, it's 90 minutes after the Belgium Grand Prix, whenever that finishes, if it rains in the Ardennes. Please do continue to subscribe to the Grid Network as well here on our YouTube channel. We thank you very much for helping us reach the 1,000 subscriber milestone. Now we're on the road to 2,000 subscribers. You can hit the bell icon to get notifications for when we go on the air. And you can follow all of our social medias and visit gridnetworktv.com. So new website, that's gridnetworktv.com. You can take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Michelle, Robin, David, and Matthew, who invest each month in the Grid Network. And we encourage you to join these fine folks who help us keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can start sending our team to the track to cover more races and continue expanding our coverage. Link to all of that is in the video description. And if you want to do a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link. You can get your name on the board and invest as much as you want and consider buying a specific on-air personality a cup of coffee, and they will thank you on the air for it as well. Nice to be back. Nice to have the band back together as well after a couple of weeks off as well. Boys did great as well. My thanks to Ben Schneider as well for filling in for me as well on these weeks off as well. So for Kobe Lambeth tonight, alongside Mike White and myself from Grid Performance Index, I'm Joshua Birch. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time after Spa. Bye-bye.